Director, thanks for the tour on that. We really felt every inch of the bay just now, but really also saw the vision and the commitment.
Department of Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg touring the Port of Green Bay alongside Senator Tammy Baldwin this past week. The port awarded some $10 million to build a new port terminal, that funding coming from the infrastructure law.
The attention now this holiday weekend turning to the airline industry and new rules the Biden administration is proposing.
Secretary, thank you for joining us and giving us a couple minutes. Sounded like a little bit of a campaign speech up there. I'm curious, as we look to the next year, is this what we're going to see administration officials like you out in key cities, in key states, highlighting spending that the administration has focused on and laws that have been passed?
Well, you're going to see us in every part of the country, red, blue, and purple, because it's not about Democrats and Republicans. It's about getting stuff done. This was a bipartisan infrastructure law supported by leaders like Senator Baldwin and driven by leaders like President Biden, that is now leading to good results, whether it's the funding going into creating a new terminal in Green Bay, and that's not something you see every day, or roads and bridges, rail improvements, and of course that's just the transportation side of the story. We spent so much of our first year working to get that bill passed, and then the second year getting these programs up and running. Now year 3 and year 4 of this term is our chance to get the money moving and the dirt flying, and we're doing everything we can to tell that story so that Americans understand how we came together to get these projects off the ground.
Do you think that is a winning message, especially when you look to 2024 and the president's re-election bid?
Well, again, I'm here in an official capacity, not a campaign capacity, but what I'll say is that I think we have a very good story to tell about the achievements of this administration.
Let's talk about the airline industry. This is a critical weekend, a holiday weekend. When you look at air travel, how critical is this weekend going into the summer, and what are you going to be watching from the airlines?
Well, I view this weekend as a real test of the system. Last year we saw unacceptable levels of disruptions, cancellations, and delays. I called the airlines in, laid out the things that needed to improve, offered to help in areas where we could team up, and made clear we would hold them accountable when there were failures. And I have to say, so far this year, things look better. I think this weekend's really going to put that to the test. We're expecting possibly the highest number of passengers we've seen since before the pandemic. And we've done a lot to try to gear up for that on the FAA side. I know airlines have been staffing up, hiring up. Now we need to see the proof of that in the results.
If there are problems this weekend or this summer, whose fault is it? Is it the airline industry or is it your administration?
Look, ultimately airlines are responsible for their performance and for their customer service. Now I will say about 5% of the delay minutes that we've seen have to do with air traffic control staffing issues. And that's one of the reasons why we're pushing very hard for a budget that allows us to grow air traffic control.
Is that getting any better in recent months?
Yeah, we've been able to bring on 1,500 this year. We have 1,800 planned for the year ahead if that survives in these budget negotiations, which I'm strongly making the case that it should, because we never want that to be the constraint. Most delays are caused by weather, followed by things that are under the airline's control. But when there's anything we can control with the FAA, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that flights are more efficient, not less.
We're talking as talks in Washington are continuing negotiations over the debt ceiling. What would a default do to the airline industry and to airline passengers?
Well, a default would be catastrophic for the economy. Look, we saw amazing recovery, faster than anybody thought possible, in airline demand and in economic numbers generally after COVID. This would throw all of that back on its feet. And I think we'd be back to what it was like a couple of years ago, when the big problem with airlines wasn't whether they were on time or not, it was whether they were going to go out of business or not. I don't want us to go back to that. And that is a possible consequence of the economic upheaval that would come with a default, which is why I think most Americans agree default should not be an option.
How immediate is that, and have the airlines expressed that to you?
Well, I think anybody in business in America has expressed their concern. And again, this should be something that's completely off the table. Negotiating over a budget is the most natural and proper thing in the world. Negotiating over whether to send the economy off a cliff is not.
You and President Biden proposed a new rule recently in terms of the airlines compensating passengers more for delays. Curious where that sits in terms of the process. When will that be implemented? And what's the response been from the airlines?
Well, frankly, the airlines are not happy about it. I'm not surprised. They don't want to have to compensate passengers in these situations, but we think this really needs to happen, and we've seen policies like this successful in other countries. So it's going to take a little while to develop it and make it formally a rule, which is why we're encouraging airlines to do it before we get the rule done voluntarily. But I know they probably won't do that on their own, which is exactly why we need to make this part of the regulatory process, as we've already done to move it forward rules on things like fees, refunds, transparency. We're doing everything we can to make it easier and better to be an airline passenger in America.
Before the end of the year?
We're hoping to get that rule out for comment in that time frame. It does take a lot of work just because of the legal process that's involved. We want to be fair about it and fair to passengers. We're going to be fair to the airlines too, but we are going to ask more of them.
How concerned are you about a lawsuit over it once it is implemented?
Look, we think this is squarely within our authority. I also would urge airlines to consider that this could actually help the industry by building passenger confidence that passengers are going to be treated well. I know that companies don't like especially airlines, those kinds of corporations don't always like being held accountable in this way, but they've already shown that they can handle these rules in places like Canada and Europe, and it's time for American passengers to know that they're going to be compensated, not just for a ticket refund, but for their time.
Secretary Buttigieg, appreciate your time.
Thank you, same here.
Thank you.
Up next, all eyes on 2024. A new nationwide Marquette Law School poll is out, and the poll's director, Charles Franklin, is here.